Hello, everybody. Welcome back from the breakout rooms. I hope you've all had some good discussions. We're now back in plenary session for the final few words, and I'm very grateful to have the opportunity as Head of Equality, Diversity and Inclusion at the SRA to say a few words. A diverse and inclusive profession is important to us at the SRA, something I know we share with everyone here today. And Prime is a great example of how much can be achieved through collaboration. It's so valuable to come together, share ideas about some of these really challenging diversity issues in the profession. We all know the pace of change can be slow, frustratingly slow sometimes in relation to social mobility and other areas of diversity, and there can be setbacks, but also opportunities to make some really good progress. It has been a difficult 18 months with a pandemic, and we know the brunt of this has fallen on the very people we're all trying to help. But it's also offered opportunities, at least for some, for example, by expanding the reach of some of the social mobility initiatives. But it takes hard work and commitment over the long term. I remember coming together with a group of organisations just after the first lockdown. It was a meeting called by the Social Mobility Commission, who were developing the employer's toolkit for financial and professional services. I heard the passion and the determination from so many people on the call, many of them from prime partner firms. There was such determination to salvage something from the situation and offer what they could to students with work experience placements. And we at the SRA have seen that in the work that we've done over the year. For example, through our support for the Birmingham cohort of the Social Mobility Business Partnership. It was fantastic to see how they were able to expand their offering this year against all the odds, delivering online programs across the country. There are lots of things to be optimistic about, and it really does feel like now is the time to come together and make a difference. With the success of partnerships like Prime and others, and the opportunities presented by the Social Mobility Task Force, which I know has been referred to a few times today, to bring people together across and within different sectors. There are nevertheless still some real challenges, many of which will have been picked up in the discussions that you've had in the breakout rooms just now. And I know Nicholas is going to be talking about the summary points from those discussions shortly. There's one thing from the sessions that particularly resonated with me, and that's fair recruitment. So important to get this right, as I know everybody on the call understands, especially for work experience placements and other entry-level positions, in particular in the context of the changes that we've introduced through the Solicitors Qualifying Examination, the SQE. It's absolutely key to the SQE's success in promoting diversity that employers in the legal sector can take advantage of the opportunities to rethink their recruitment. And central to this is fair practices and moving away from the sometimes very narrow approaches that some firms have. This is one of the things that was highlighted by the Bridge Group in its report on the SQE. And another factor, and one I want to finish on today, is having good diversity data. This is where we as the regulator have been working hard to try and make a difference. We've made sure that we are collecting diversity data from SQE candidates, and we've been requiring firms to collect data on social mobility for a number of years now. The questions that we use are aligned to the latest questions approved by the Commission, so should allow for meaningful comparison with national data sets. And the data that will provide detailed understanding of the pathways to law by diversity characteristics, including, very importantly, an intersectional perspective. There is more that we and law firms can do with the data we collect. Many firms still are carrying out static anonymous surveys of their workforces or failing to capture work experience or recruitment data. Properly used, diversity data can and really should be used to evaluate the impact of the initiatives that firms are investing so much time and effort into. Tracking the diversity of those who are getting in as well as those who are getting on is really important. There's lots of resources and toolkits, including from the Commission that Sandra mentioned earlier, many of which are also referenced on our website, including a recent webinar that we recorded with Prime, the Law Society and the Commission. And as Nicholas mentioned at the very beginning of this session today, Prime has been doing a lot of work in recent years to track the impact of its work through the data collection and analysis of the impact of the scheme. So I know that firms here today and Prime generally get the importance of diversity data. So just to say congratulations on your 10 years. It's been a great conference. I've enjoyed listening in today. And within the best intentions, I hope you don't make it to 20. So over to you, Nicholas. Thank you.
It's good to be back. Sorry for the slight delay there. I should begin by thanking Sian for her contributions and for the very constructive work that the SRA is doing. And it's great, I have to say, that over the last couple of years particularly, Prime has been working very closely with the SRA and also with the Law Society in a concerted effort to make a difference. So not having people reinventing wheels and making sure that when we talk about collecting data, we're doing it in a very streamlined way so that our member firms are not having to do 3 sets of data for 3 different purposes, for example, which is overlapping. And we appreciate very much how time consuming these things are. So we've tried to work together and be, as I say, as streamlined as possible. And I think full credit to the SRA and to the Law Society for the way that we're combining together around these various initiatives. So thank you, Sian, for joining us. And thank you for Stephanie being part of this conference earlier today. I'm going to come to the breakout sessions in a moment. And certainly I've been dipping in and out, and there have been some lively discussions going on and some great ideas shared. And one of the advantages, of course, of these breakout sessions has been that, frankly, whilst various people come to it with a lot of research or a lot of experience, none of us have all the answers. And we so understand that there is no single solution. It's a complex topic. It doesn't have overnight solutions. We have to work at this in a concerted effort, and it's no good just having senior management talking about this and having some very, very committed people in our HR teams, our people teams, our graduate recruitment teams, our CSR teams, et cetera, who are determined to put in place programs to make sure that these things happen, because it needs broader engagement. And one of the challenges I think various people have seen at firms over the years is the challenge of engaging enough partners to act as role models in making sure that these things are properly embedded and not just for the few and only concerning a few. And outside the law profession as well, one sees the challenge around diversity and issues generally, and not just around social mobility, is often around that middle management piece. And so I think as we start to talk more about progression, it's also starting to engage more with that middle management section and making sure that they are buying into what we're doing and that people become accountable. And it's great to have initiatives. It's great to talk about supporting people and developing their careers, but it's not just talk. It actually has to happen. And if people don't make it happen, then there have to be consequences. Otherwise, we're not going to achieve what we need to achieve, and the timeline is going to be so much longer. And as Sian said, we very much hope here that we don't make it to our 20th birthday, because if we do, then there's a lot of work still needing to be done. So what I thought we might do now is really to have, I guess, a quick poll. We'll share the results of the various workshop discussions and breakout discussions that we've had, and I'll just give you in a moment some of the pieces that have come out of that from my perspective. But it will be very interesting to take the opportunity, as we've got you all gathered here together at the moment, to get your thoughts on a particular question that I would love to hear from you all about, because I think it's really important for Prime moving ahead, focusing upon what it needs to do, perhaps not in the next 10 years, certainly in the next perhaps 2 to 5 years. And we can help you if we know best what you want at this time in your evolution. I quite accept there's a huge range of membership here, and so where you're at in your particular cycle may well be very different. But we're going to now put up a poll in which I'm going to ask you each to answer the question, which of the following could your law firm commit to doing more of in the next 5 years? And the options are that could it be more outreach to schools and students? Could it be more recruitment from non-traditional routes? So, for example, apprenticeships and paralegals. Could it be more focus on retaining and developing candidates from less advantaged backgrounds? Could it be more collaborative working with other organisations? Could it be more sophisticated use of social mobility data or data, depending on which firm you're in? Or could it be a more open discussion about social mobility in the legal sector generally? So those are the options. Tick as many as you like, I think, but tick all of them that you think apply. The poll is going to go, he says, with complete confidence in his platform deliverer this morning, live any second now, and we'll see what you come up with. Thank you. So in the meantime, whilst we're waiting for the poll, this is the latest from our illustrator, hugely talented, and has been dipping into the various breakouts and workshops and seeing what it is that we've been talking about and bringing all of that together in that very, very descriptive, illustrative, and hugely talented, I have to say, way. So congratulations there, and we will share that with you when it's finished, and it will be part of our feedback. So here's the illustration, and you can see breakout sessions, 10th anniversary conference, and capturing some of the key elements of our discussion and what this is about. So middle management, you see, she was listening. She picked up on what I was just talking about around middle management, creating the right environment for success, and the whole selection, fair and equal piece. In the middle there, we've got tech poverty. So lots going on, lots coming out of the discussions, and really, really interesting piece. So we've got the poll results back in, and thank you very much for participating. And the biggest hit was the third of the options, which was more focus on retaining and developing candidates from less advantaged backgrounds. So that's got to be the case, isn't it? And that really is, I think, where Prime needs to be focusing going forward, which goes into, I think it was breakout session D, which was about that retaining and developing the progression piece. And I was able to sit in on some of that conversation. And a lot of it was around this area of making sure that we have the systems in place. And one of those was around mentoring. And there was some interesting around mentoring, which showed that a very, very significant proportion of people who benefit from mentoring go on to be successful. And the rate of promotion for those who get mentored is materially higher than those who do not have the benefit of mentorship. And actually, what was also quite interesting in these statistics I found was that you also saw that same correlation, so that even the mentors themselves were proportionately more likely to be promoted than those who did not participate in any mentorship scheme at all. And I was a little bit surprised by that, but when you think about it, it does actually reflect the fact that mentorship is mutually beneficial. I've done a lot myself, and I know many, many people who have been involved in mentorship schemes as mentors, and they have all come out of it with benefits for themselves, as well as having helped the mentee. None of us know everything. All of us have the opportunity to learn from each other. And the whole piece about reverse mentoring, which is becoming increasingly popular in a number of organizations and including in some law firms, I think is part of this. So coming back, linking to my middle management piece, I would positively be encouraging middle managers to have reverse mentorship schemes with those from diverse backgrounds, including obviously socially mobile backgrounds, because you then get into the conversations, the whole conversation about that disadvantage, the lack of equality, the lack of the level playing field is an easier conversation on a one-to-one basis. It raises awareness and it enables those middle managers to actually understand, because a lot of the time, either because they're too busy or they really haven't engaged with the topic, they don't see the problem. And they think if you're smart enough and you work hard enough, then you'll be promoted. But they don't understand that actually that, whether you call it subconscious or unconscious bias, or just the whole environment in which somebody is working, can be an impediment to their success and their progression. And so I would very much support more and more firms being involved in those kind of schemes, because I think it really does make a huge difference. Also saw reference to social mobility networks. And again, some firms have initiated those. Various forms of gender network have been around for some time, and race networks are increasingly prevalent, and LGBTQ plus, etc. But social mobility hasn't really hit the agenda in a large way at the moment. But again, definitely encourage firms to give some serious consideration to that, because I think having the network alone raises visibility of the issue, promotes the conversation. And what it also does, because in these networks, I think for them to be most effective, you need allies as well. But what I think tends to happen with a social mobility network is that it almost encourages people to come out of the woodwork. So what I mean by that is, as we heard earlier on, that there are a lot of senior people who have had what you might call a socially mobile journey or narrative. And they haven't really talked about it because it hasn't been the done thing, or they've been sensitive about not exposing their past in that kind of environment. But actually, in the context of a social mobility network, it feels like a safe place to have that kind of conversation. And I think the real advantage to that is the need for role models to appear. Because unlike most other forms of for example, the protected characteristics, they tend to be visible. They tend to be more obvious. So if you're looking for a role model, you can see a successful non-white female. If you're looking for a role model with a socially mobile narrative, unless they're talking about it, you probably don't know. Be wrong in those assumptions. So I think social mobility networks really make a valuable contribution. So I think the power of storytelling Really, really important, really, really impactful. And again, some firms have started doing that with little video clips, which they've shared around the firm. And sometimes that can be a revelation because you make certain assumptions about people and then you hear a very, very different background, a very, very different narrative, really along the Tony Kent theme. Meeting Tony, whether it's in Waitrose or a Mansion House for a function, you do not know about her family background and her family history. So any conclusions about where she might have come from. So me, probably moving towards time to wrap up, and I'm going to do so simply by thanking you all for participating. We'll share lots of information and we will come back to you all. Thank you to all of the excellent speakers and facilitators. Today would simply not have been possible without your support. Thanks also to the steering group who were instrumental in putting this conference together. Thanks to Tim Smith, Laura Bruce, Aaron Sohn, Paul, Chris White and Kirsty McClellan in particular, who've been involved in this conference for a number of months in helping us putting it together. Once again, thanks to Brody's, Hogan Lovells and Stockenboker for their pro bono support. And I have to end with a special thanks to Jane Hopkins and her team at WellSpan, who've provided the logistical support for today's conference. They didn't ask me to do this. I am very, very happy indeed to recommend them to any Prime member. My fellow trustees and board directors are saying we're not insured for that kind of thing. Nicholas, be careful what you're doing. So treat this as being off the record. WellSpan, really, really good at what they do. So if you're looking for somebody, check them out. Also, thanks to Katie Chappell, our illustrator. Really enjoyed what you'd done. Very, very talented. Thank you. We'll let Katie add the finishing touches to what she's doing, and we'll share the illustration with you along with the key points from the breakout sessions and the links to the further information and resources you might find useful. Going to end it now. Thank you for your time this morning, for your ongoing membership.
Nicholas,
yes.
Sorry. Hi.
Hello, Tish. You popped onto my screen there, and I was thinking, our WordSpan not quite as good as I thought they were. Is something else going on here? Tish.
Well, I've been asked to interrupt you with a very, very important thank you that you've missed. And we're all aware of the fact that you're going to be stepping down in April. And it is a thank you that we owe to you in advance of you handing on that chair baton in April. It's my complete honor that I've been asked by the board to say a few words about you and your impact as chair of the Prime Board before a special video is shown. So get ready for that. Looking back at the many years of our correspondence and dare I say our adventures together, because we got to travel and do a lot of meetings together too over the years. I was really struck on a mail you sent the board about your incoming chairship beginning on the 1st of May, 2016, which is pretty amazing to look back at considering it's 2021. And in the press release that was issued at that time on the occasion of your incoming chairship, you reflected on, quote, opening up access to our legal world, unquote, and your commitment to collaborate with stakeholders to make sure young people with talent but without connections get the opportunity to succeed in our profession. And you've done this, but more, Nicholas. I spoke earlier today about the business value of inclusion, and under your leadership, you have made material progress on Prime's goals by championing inclusion, which is so vital to increase the important diversity that socially mobile professionals bring to the legal profession. Just some brief examples. On the board, you diversified the board. You brought in membership directors from education, from other social mobility organizations, diverse partner talent on the board, making sure that there was diversity not only in background, but also in regionality. So it wasn't just London. It had huge impact on what the board was able to accomplish over the last couple of years, as we're directly benefiting from that diversity. You increased firm participation. You were really empathetic to what the Prime firms needed and what Prime Board could centrally solve for them in terms of resources, and also keeping everybody on the same message. Finally, under your leadership, you have this bias towards collaboration with others around the social mobility landscape. And the Prime members directly benefit from this, contextual recruiting now a best practice, and identifying cold spots most in need of Prime's ability to open doors. So although there is still hard work ahead of us, to make the reality of a more diverse and inclusive legal profession, which we crave. One thing is for certain, your leadership of the Prime Board has ensured a solid, and if I may say, exciting foundation for Prime member firms to take it to the next level, to meet the wave of client demand, which has already begun for a more diverse and inclusive legal profession. And hopefully, as you say, go out of business. On a personal note, thank you for your mentorship, your passion, your willingness to debate tough issues, your unwavering commitment, and your overall enthusiasm, which is inspirational and contagious. And I also might say your sense of humor and fun, which makes it all the more enjoyable to work with you. I would say we will all miss you, but as I am living proof, you are never really leaving the Prime family. And I think there's now a video from some of those Prime family members to send you off in style. Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you, Tish. Really appreciate that. It's very kind.
So much with Nicholas as its leader, and we will miss him greatly. And
there is no doubt that Nicholas's chairmanship is critical to Prime being taken seriously across the profession and beyond.
Nicholas is a brilliant chair, always keeping that ultimate goal in mind.
Through your personal leadership, your drive and your passion, you've managed to corral and bring together stakeholders from across the legal industry.
I'm also hugely impressed by Nicholas's commitment to social mobility. It's unswerving.
I don't think you can talk about social mobility and the legal profession without thinking of Nicholas.
And when I look at all the things that we've done as a board, the thing that I feel most proud of is that we identified some of the particular challenges created by lockdown and the difficulty in getting access to work experience. And we worked really hard to find a solution to that. And you know what a solution it's ended up being. We now have this ability to reach a far greater number of people with Prime's message. We're able to tell more people that law is open to everybody. And so when I look back, that's the thing that I think will be the legacy for your time as chair of Prime.
Frankly, we need more people like Nicholas who have clearly, and he personally has clearly moved the dial for a number of young people, for tens, hundreds of young people who've entered the Prime programme, some of whom have gone on to be lawyers and others have gone on to do other things but raise their aspiration through Prime.
And he chairs with a combination of charm, intelligence, but also with the good humour that all of the best chairs have.
As chair of Prime, you've been exemplary. You're always encouraging, respectful, attentive, and you listen. You give everybody a voice, and you possess that innate leadership quality that most of us lack, which is to encourage people willingly to follow you.
And your passion is so obvious, and actually it's truly infectious.
Thank you for everything you have done. Thank you for all the progress, for the inclusivity, for the diversity, and for being a true champion of social mobility.
Nicholas, thank you. It has been a pleasure to work with you, but far more than that, a privilege. I look forward to seeing where the next chapter is for you.
So I would like to thank you, Nicholas, for being a chair, a brilliant chair, and your enormous commitment, the time and energy that you have clearly put into this role.
I just want to congratulate Nicholas on a fantastic stewardship of Prime. His contributions to the Prime board have been invaluable.
As a Prime board now, you leave us in excellent shape, and I hope our efforts to continue your journey in advancing social mobility will continue to make you proud.
And thank you, everybody. That was wholly unexpected and hugely appreciated. And I think I'm just happy to end on that note, and clearly couldn't have done anything that people have just said I've managed to do without the cooperation, collaboration, willingness, enthusiasm of a whole bunch of people, both past and current members of the board and the whole of the Prime family. So as I start to step away, I wish everybody else success in continuing this journey. Thank you very much indeed for participating today. Thank you for what I know you're going to go on to do in the future. I wish you all well. Have a wonderful day. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.